Well, hi everyone, and thank you very much for watching or listening. Liam Hartree here today with another episode of Presenting Champions for the Simply Inspired channel. Today, joined by a very, very special guest. I'm honored to have this man on the show. Wanted to have him on the show for a long time. Today's guest, bare knuckle legend Daniel Lerwell, who, as well as being well known in the bare knuckle circuit, obviously world champion in that as well, also has a very powerful social message that he shares for autism awareness and mental health as well. So as always with my interviews today, it's not just going to be about the brutality, bare knuckle boxing, bone against bone, although that is exciting. We're also going to be talking about some deeper things with mental health and autism and everything like that. So stay tuned, everyone. And Champ, thank you so much for coming on the show.
It's no problem, Liam. It's amazing to be asked on, mate. Thank you.
Well, that goes both ways, mate. You know, it's an honor for both of us. So, like I say, excited to have you on, and especially because I've been wanting to do this for a while. So, let's start at the beginning. I'm going to start going back into your earlier life, not all the way back, but a little way back. And I'm going to start with fun, which you're going to know where I'm going with it. You and James Lilly and that whole thing with going back a good few years now.
That was 2009, I think. 2009. It was about 17 of us, all MMA fighters. John Phillips was one of them.
Yeah.
It was Marley Swindles. It was loads of us, and we decided to go dressed as women tonight on the last night out before camp started. And well, the rest is history.
The rest is history, but it's an amazing, it's an amazing story. You know, stunning knockouts on the streets, and obviously, both. You know, how many fellas decided to pick on you in the end?
Well, it's a really funny story from the beginning because the two fellas that started it all, they actually started fighting with superheroes in a place called Escape. Escape obviously moved to the Kingsway there around that time, and they started fighting with Spider-Man and Iron Man or something like that it was. So they made their way up, and obviously they seen us dressed as women, and they started shouting abuse at us. One of them actually smacked James Lilly, and I come over and I get the two of them. They've gone down. Lilly gave him a little kick on the floor and picked his bag up and tore it off.
Oh my days, it's cracking. And when you see the video, he goes over to pick his handbag up. Now, oh man, it's just classic. Obviously, there was a lot of attention. I mean, people still bring it up now, but at the time, it's all over everything, wasn't it? I mean,
oh mate, it was unbelievable. I mean, we didn't even know it happened. We didn't know it was going to happen. Lily will tell you this. I went to the shop on a Saturday morning or Sunday morning. It was about 2 weeks after it happened. There's a big picture on the front of our local Evening Post. Who are these two drag queens? Drag queens fighting or something, they said, isn't it? And that's when I phoned Lily and I said, have you seen the Evening Post? Because I actually thought we were in trouble, first of all. We did have a caution mind, but it was a nightmare. It was everywhere within 24 hours.
I bet it was. And obviously that was in a time when things weren't going viral like as much as they are now, type of thing. But everyone's still. Yeah. And you got stopped a lot in the street, as I understand it. With at
the time, mate, I was getting stopped every 2 minutes. I mean, Oprah Winfrey got in touch with us, for God's sake. Oprah Winfrey got in touch with us to go over to America, but Lily could have gone, but I couldn't get in America at the time. So, due to my past stupid stuff life, but yeah, it was absolutely bonkers time. It was, mate. Crazy.
Absolutely, yeah, wild, absolutely wild story. You know, drag queens knocking people out. You know, that type of thing. I mean, as the headline said, it's amazing, and it's amazing. It all just started as a bit of fun, and it blew up around the world. Like I think it's cool. Talk to us a little bit about your background in fighting before bare knuckle boxing.
Believe it or not, I started off as a judo boy. I started judo when I was about 8 years old. I'm first-time black belt at judo. And then I went boxing about 14, 15. It was kind of rebellion. It was. My father didn't like boxing. My father's a second-hand judo, so he's always been in judo. So like a rebellion to go boxing. I only had 11 amateur fights. I actually lost my first 3 or 4. And I won the rest then I think I won 5 by knockout and 2 on points. Then it went from there, and I got chucked in the deep end of MMA. Then John had a show in 2008. He asked me if I wanted to fight. I was roughly about 18 stone at the time, fat. I fought a heavyweight, and I won my first MMA fight then on that show.
Yeah, amazing to get the backstory of it, because obviously you're so well for BKB and everything, but it's nice to go back. And yeah, you were on some good shows. I think there was like Pain Pit, there was Budo, there was.
I don't know. At the beginning, I wasn't taking this serious, but I was taking it quite serious. You understand what I mean? As I always say to everybody that asks me, MMA guys, they got so much discipline, mate. It's unbelievable. They got to train 3 or 4 times a day. It's a full-time job for them, and they get paid very little, very, very little, unless in the UFC or the bigger promotions. Jack Shaw's a good example. John Phillips, Jack Marshman, very dedicated people. They went through all the shit to get to where they were. And, you know, I am glad I didn't knuckle down and train when I was younger properly, just to see where I could push myself to. But life goes on, and it's pointless dwelling on it. But in the end, I was taking fights in like 2 weeks' notice and just fighting, turning up and fighting in the end. But yeah, it's but just one of those things I do regret.
Yeah. Well, obviously you've turned it around with the bare knuckle boxing, which we'll get to in a moment. We'll get to that shortly. So yeah, that's the MMA side of things. Now, obviously, one of the things to touch on here, and I respect this because it's not necessarily going to be the easiest thing to talk about, even though you do talk about it. Obviously, there have been some dark times in your life. Now, just so you know, I'm only bringing this up for the inspiration. You know what I mean? The fact.
Yeah, mate, as I said, if it helps one person, then my job's done. I've been suffering since I was young. But when I was young, I'm 36 now. When we were younger, and nobody really knew about mental health. It was just, he was a miserable bastard, more or less. That's what it was. It was, and going back about 10 years ago now, 8 years ago, I was diagnosed with bipolar, which I've probably had all my life. And yeah, it's been a few dark moments, but what I can't emphasize enough is I was one of these guys that wouldn't speak about it. Yeah, sorry about that, my boy. Yeah, I wouldn't speak about it. And the best thing I ever done was take advice of someone close to me and go to the doctors and actually, yeah, we're going to Santry tomorrow, okay? And took advice. I went to doctors to speak to someone about it. I wait months and months to get on the right medication because they go through different medication. Whoever's been through it knows the score. They go through a lot of medication until you find the right one for you. We actually did find the right one in the end. And I'm still on it now. And I'm glad to admit I'm on medication for it. It's helped me tenfold. But the training helps as well. It's not even just training, it's find something that takes you somewhere else. Like fishing helps me as well. Fishing and training is my medicine as well.
It's like therapy. Well, it's good that you're in such a good place now. Yeah, the message about speaking out is super important. I mean, as men, you know, I don't know what I have to say. As men, we are taught to just sort of suck it up and you know, not speak about these things. But now that's starting to change. People.
Yeah.
So shortly we'll move into the bare knuckle. Last question about that. As I understand it, though, obviously you've got help now, but it went far enough that you actually tried to take your own life. Now,
yeah, I'll never forget it. I come home. I'd been on a manic depression for about 2-3 months solid at the time. I knew the signs, and what they told me now is to stop it then while the signs are showing. When out drinking, which is the worst thing we do. I come home, come downstairs, give my kids a kiss. I know it's terrible, my kids in the house and my wife. Give my kids a kiss, told them I loved them all. Went upstairs, hung a rope up and hung myself. And my wife cut me down. And if she had been, I think the ambulance man said she'd been 20, 30 seconds later, I wouldn't be here. I'd be dead. But I can promise you, Liam, the last thing I went through my mind when I done it, even though as drunk as I was, oh my God, this is a mistake. And when you do it, mate, there's nothing you can do about it then. So that's why I tell everyone, that's kind of my saying is, don't let suicide be your last mistake, because it will be your last mistake.
Yeah, I have heard that from survivors. I mean, first of all, I got a lot of respect for how you share that, because obviously something like that, I know I'm asking about it now, but it can't be easy to sort of think back to it. So, but thank you for sharing the message, because as you say, if it touches one person, then that's
If it helps one person, that's all I'm going to do. And the fact of it is that it do prove that it doesn't matter who you've got in your life. You can have a million friends, you can have a million family. When you're in that state, you feel alone. And I think someone on the outside coming in and just saying, "Oh, look, buddy, you were right," that'll help more than the family saying it. I know it sounds stupid, but I mean, if anyone's out there struggling, they only that's all they got to do is pick up a phone to me or send me a message, and I'll do as much as I can to help them. And I have done. I've had people message me before, and I've helped them. So it's just one of those things that is very close to my heart.
Absolutely, yeah. So you get people coming to you for advice and all that type?
Yeah, I've actually I've done a few walks. I've met some I won't mention his name, but I met a guy for a coffee. He was in a really bad place. And I kept on meeting him every time we wanted to meet. And in the end, we got him through it. He went to the doctors. Proper man. I mean, he's a big guy as well. He's a big, tough guy. And in the end, he went to doctors, spoke about it. He's on medication now, and he's more he's a million times better than what he was. What people forget, Liam, is when you're at rock bottom, and I mean that's where you will be when you do suffer. You'll be at rock bottom. The only way out of that is up. You can't go any lower. So even if the next day is a little bit better, 1% better, in 100 days it's going to be 100% better. You know what I mean? And that's the way I try talking to them and trying to explain to them.
Yeah, it is powerful advice for people, and like I say, when this goes out there, people listening to that, it'll make a big impact on them. I think just
it's not. I mean, I still suffer now. Like I was registered bulimic for my last 4 fights, except for the one just gone. I shouldn't really. The last 3, I shouldn't have fought because I was really ill. I was making myself sick to make weight. I mean, you could tell by the difference on the photos of me. And to be honest, I shouldn't have fought. I fought because of pride more than anything. And then I fell back into the depression game, and I fell back into, well, I'm not good enough for the sport anymore. I'm doing it just to get hurt myself and stuff like that. And it do set your mind off. But then you've got to step back and you've got to do something that switches your mind off, and you've got to think about it and get back from it.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's well, big respect on that, getting in the fights. I mean, I know it might not have been for the right reasons, but at the same time, we'll come to the bare knuckle now. One last question about the mental health side of things. Obviously, you channel it now into training, and I've heard that from you guys. What was your process? Because you mentioned like when you were younger, you get into a bit of trouble and things like that. Have you learned to channel it over time and like hone the energy, if you get what I mean, with this?
When I was younger, mate, I didn't know how to channel it. I didn't know how to control it. I didn't know what to do with it. And it was like, with me, I've only ever taken drugs once when I was 18, and it was a waste of time. But it was drink with me. And then when you drink with the situation you're in, you think you're absolutely King Kong, or you think you either up there in a mania or you're down there. And that was a dangerous thing with me, because I didn't know what was wrong with me. I was getting in trouble all the time. So yeah, I don't know how to do it when I was younger. I don't know how to channel it. I don't know how to do anything when I was younger.
Yeah. Well, again, that's another good lesson for people with mental health or with anything, is channeling energy into something constructive.
Yeah.
Youngsters out there, they have a lot of energy, they have a lot of talent.
Yeah, and the younger you can catch it, the better. I mean, fishing is great. I go fishing a lot. I do a lot of carp fishing. I do a lot of sea fishing, and it takes you away from everything. And even walking, even just going out for a walk, it just switches you off and then takes you away from everything. Like at the moment, training is well, I advise anyone if they're suffering, get training.
Oh yeah, I mean, this is the thing, training, regardless if you're an athlete or not, I mean, the endorphins and like the good
It's
feeling.
just doing something good for yourself. Yeah, that's right. And that's what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
That's exactly what I'm talking about. As soon as you leave that gym, you feel good about yourself.
Yeah. It's just a buzz, and it's just like, what do I explain to people? Obviously, I'm not like an athlete, but just from training, like you get the pain, from training, then it starts to feel good. And
Yeah.
then I don't know, you just feel better and better with like the oxygen and the sweat and the whole thing. And you
I
walk.
mean, even when you're talking about it, you're smiling now. Do you know what I mean? It's one of those things where you love the feeling of it.
Yeah, absolutely. And the other thing as well of like, yeah, fishing or walking or whatever, still in the mind, especially because in this day and age, there's a lot of, there's a lot of things in our faces, with phones and everyone can reach.
On social media, yeah.
So taking like time to just get away from all that and
What I find with the carp fishing is I stay in what you call a bivvy. It's like a tent.
yeah,
And because you're outside, even in the winter, I go in the winter, I go all parts of the year, even the freezing cold. Because you're outside and you're actually in nature, it just quietens your mind, and it's fantastic.
yeah, it is absolutely. Yeah. I mean, it's so peaceful, time in nature.
Yeah,
I do that. I go for long walks along the coast because, where I live.
right, mate.
Yeah, near
It's,
Barry. It's like it's all coastal and everything. So I got in, and it's just there's nothing else like it. Like natural medicine is,
yeah, and it is. And I got another guy now. He's a bit scared to go out. He actually went for a walk the other day, but he goes like 8 o'clock at night when it's quiet.
Yeah,
And he was telling me, his senses kicked in, and he started doing stuff he never thought before. Like his hearing just went mad. His senses in his eyes went bonkers because it was dark. And he said he felt alive, and that's the first time he's felt like that in a long time. He said. So it's it just goes to prove.
yeah, it does. It proves the point 100%. And I got to say as well, it's beautiful work that you're doing, spreading the message. And like I said to you just now before we were recording, I
Yeah,
got so much respect for that. It's like honestly from my heart now. It's amazing. We also need to touch on the autism side of things as
yeah.
well, because you do a lot with awareness with that. And for anyone who doesn't know, can you share with us how that came about in the beginning and everything?
The autism. Well, I knew nothing about it. We had my little girl Freya. She was healthy. We also had my stepdaughter Ellie before that, and then my son was born. It's quite a funny story because I actually chucked the health visitor out there when she said there was something wrong with him because he was so young. I thought, nah, he's just a bit slower than the other kids. But no, he got diagnosed with autism about 2.5-year-old. And wow, I didn't know nothing about it. I thought my world had ended. Um, you know, and the doctors tell you the worst. They always do. And wow, it was a very big eye opener. I started looking up on it. I started trying to help my son. And I can tell you now, right? Anyone out there's going through with the kids, do not worry about it. They're the most amazing kids ever. And whatever the doctor tells you, try not to listen to it too much because some of it don't even happen. I mean, some of it obviously will happen, but some of it, like they told me my son would never speak. He speaks now. Can't have a conversation with him, but he speaks. And that's something we thought we'd never hear. He's physically absolutely fine. He's an absolute beast. He's in size like 11 to 12 clothes. He's 8-year-old. He's huge. But yeah, autism is such a big spectrum. You will have no two kids that's the same. And when I get messages about oh, my son's doing this or my son's doing this, is he autistic or whatever, it's hard to answer because no kids are the same. They may have the same attributes as in like symptoms, but in themselves, there is no same child as them. They are the only one, and that's what I love about it. And what I adore about my son is he don't care about the world around him. He's in his own little bubble, and he is absolutely as happy as a Larry. He's as happy as can be. He gets on with what he likes, and what he likes he excels in. They are amazing kids, and I've always said they're not disabled or special. They're gifted. I've always said that. They're gifted kids.
Absolutely, yeah. I agree 110%. I've experienced it personally, and it's yeah, amazing talents that they have. And you
Yeah.
can't, yeah, doctors. I mean, doctors are always doom and gloom and all this type of thing. They always do.
I can't blame them because if they tell you anything less and something like that goes wrong, you're going to blame them. But honest to God, anyone going through it, not take it with a pinch of salt, but don't take it too serious. I mean, they were telling us stuff. He was 2.5-year-old, and they were telling us stuff about when he's about, he's going to be, I guess, when he's an adult. I mean, like, at the time, because he's a doctor, he was thinking, really, is that going to happen? And as time goes on, you can see him progressing, and you can see him progressing in their own way. And you're thinking, no, it's going to be a bit different, this is, than what we've been told.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, honestly, for just personally, I'm glad he's doing so well. I mean, it's genuinely heartwarming, and as I mentioned before, the awareness that you're raising for it as well, absolutely incredible. As
Yeah.
you know, these kids that they're gifted. I mean, it's a great word.
They are, and that's why I never call them. I never put it as a disability. I always say gifted. They are gifted kids.
Yeah. Yeah.
Absolutely, and there's no other word for them. And you know, there's a charity fighting for autism I work with. There's a few charities out there, but a few of them have got CEOs and all this rubbish. Fighting for Autism is a self-charity. Everything they have goes back out to the kids, and that's why I work with them. They're a fantastic charity, and if anyone ever needs any advice, I would advise them to get in touch with Fighting for Autism, because they're a world of knowledge, absolute world of knowledge.
Absolutely, yeah. Good, great to give them a shout out, champ. I love the message. I mean, like I said to you before, and yeah, just got one last thing before we go into the bare knuckle. Yeah, going back to the gifted thing, it's amazing because when people put labels on kids, obviously it affects them. Like I remember when I was in school being told about being like ADHD or dyslexic, or they put labels on me, but I didn't listen to it because obviously when you listen to it, it starts to define you. If you just look at it, you don't fit in that box, but you fit in a different type of way, and you've got different talents. Like you said, no two people are the same, and it's not even a question. I just love the message, honestly, from my heart. It's a beautiful message.
Yeah, honest, and the same with ADHD. That's on the autistic spectrum.
Yeah. Exactly.
I do stuff for a football team called Lerwell.
Yeah.
And they have autistic kids and obviously a range of disabilities playing for them. And they got one kid there with ADHD, and he's like a superstar. He is unbelievable at football. he's going to be the next Ronaldo or something now, and you can see it a mile off. He's fantastic, he is, yeah. And this is where I understand that, like even in schools, I've never been in school, and they used to label the kids with ADHD as naughty, or the kids with autism. They're a bit different than that. No, they shouldn't be labelled, and that's my message I want to put out there. They shouldn't be labelled. They're just kids.
Yeah.
The kids learn in their own way, and that's it. That's the bottom line of it. There's no labels. They learn in their own way, in their own pace, and you shouldn't label them at all.
No, absolutely, yeah. I mean, there's too much of the one size fits all type of thinking.
Right.
As you say, I mean, people learn different ways. Some people are good academics, some people are good with their hands and physically, and some people are good at sports, some people are creative. I mean, there's all different ways of learning as well. And when you get into the science of it, some people are listening, some people watching, and it's a whole different thing. And there's too much of
I will put something else out there, right?
Yeah.
It's do get in nerves in the end. Not all kids with autism are Rain Man. So when you see me, don't tell me my son's good with numbers. He is good with numbers, but please don't say to me he's going to be like Rain Man and earn you millions. I know it's only a joke, but no, they're not all like that at all. Because you get that a lot, and it pisses a lot of people off. But I'll be honest. Don't say hello? No. Don't say hello, Bella? No? Hey, Bella, see? Say hello. Hello. Hello.
Hello.
Yeah, so I put that out there. Not all kids with autism are Rain Men. Some of them are, some of them aren't.
Yeah, that's a good message actually. Stereotyping, you hadn't thought of that, but yeah, you probably get like the stereotyping. So that's a good message as well. Beautiful message. I'm well happy with that side of things. Getting into the bare knuckle boxing itself, because obviously people want to hear about it. Obviously, talk us through it. Let's start at the beginning. I mean, how did you first get into it, and what?
Right. I started back unlicensed boxing to raise money for autism. That was the thing. I was going to have a few fights, raise a few pounds, and that was it. James Lilly going to bare knuckle, and they offered me a fight in bare knuckle. I was only going to have one fight. I just have one fight in bare knuckle to raise awareness, because it was a big platform to raise it on, and I was going to give up. That was it. And I thought, a massive guy. I don't even know him, Peter Radford.
Yeah.
And I could tell you a story about it now. We went to the weigh-ins. I thought that, I think it was cruiserweight at the time, I was about 15 and a half stone, 16 stone perhaps. And there's this guy about 6'7", 6'8", walking around. And I said to my coach, Jason, I hope that's not him, I said, because he is massive. And we both was laughing our heads off and said, no, that's not him. He's definitely an heavyweight. So anyway, we goes away in. Who steps in front of me? This 6'7" giant. Must have been one of the biggest guys I've ever seen, in fairness to him. But what a nice guy, mate. I think all the guys I fought, I think they do it on purpose. I haven't fought one horrible guy yet. But yeah, I won that fight by knockout, and it just rolled on from there then. Rolled on the British title, the world title, and just let it roll with the punches.
Yeah, and it all took off. That's amazing, though. I mean, just thinking you're going to have one fight like that, I didn't know that. But talk to us about. I mean, this is quite a big question because you've been in there with the best guys. But yeah, British title, world title. What are some of your proudest moments so far?
Believe it or not, my proudest moment, right, in bare knuckle boxing, which is going to sound absolutely baffling to everyone. My proudest moment is when I lost my second fight to Daniel McGraffin, and I realised that I had to change my game and go back to my old coach, make amends with everyone, and just change. I had to change my ways. I was being a bit of a prick at the time. Sorry for the language. And I just had to bite my own tongue, swallow my own pride, apologise to people I had to apologise to. And so much, they meant to me, and that's what actually proved to me that sometimes arguing is not worth it.
Yeah, sometimes there's a time and a place for everything, isn't there? I mean, that's
Yeah.
it makes sense, because you learn from the experience, you grew from the experience. So
I mean, the coaches I had at the time were brilliant. They're fantastic coaches, fantastic boxers. I was fit as a fiddle. I had my own problems going on. But when you have a coach like Jason Williams as your best friend at the same time, at the time he's my best friend, and you click together and the stuff you're doing actually works for you without you even knowing. I mean, against CJ Mills, I was doing stuff I didn't even know I was doing. I didn't know I was doing it till I watched a video after. And it's the same against like Mason Shaw, same against Ricky Nelder. I was doing stuff I didn't even know I could do. And that's what the connection is with the coach. That's when it's a good connection there. And also now I got a proper strength and conditioning guy in Dean Delta, and he's changed my life as well. He's made me fall back in love with training.
Absolutely. It's great to give them a shout out, because the work they're doing behind the scenes. I mean, you've mentioned some great names on here. I mean, I know most of them as well. So, it's really good to give them a mention. James Lilly's been on this show. Jason, hopefully we're going to get him on the show after Christmas now, and things like that. So shout out to a lot of people you mentioned, Jack Shaw, all of them. Great guys. Yeah. So honing in on a couple of specific fights, obviously going back to the British title first, you obviously started off thinking you'd have one, you ended up having more. At the time winning the British title, how did that feel at that point, and what was
the British title was probably better than winning the world title. I mean, my father lives in France, he came over. I had a hell of a crowd there. And I was actually written off from day one. That CJ Mills was just going to walk through me. I was actually written off. And sometimes they do get to you. For some reason, I knew I was going to win that fight. I know it sounds stupid. I just knew I wouldn't lose that fight. And when I actually won it, I realised then that, you know what, I am quite good at this sport. I'm not as bad as I thought I was, because I've never had any self-confidence, Liam. I've always been the second best guy. That's what I call it. I've always been good, but I haven't been the level that other people are. But then when I won the British and I beat CJ, I knew he was a great fighter, and I knew then that obviously I deserved to be there. Then.
Absolutely, yeah. Well, you definitely do. I mean, you definitely are obviously world level, as we proved. So I've got to ask you the same thing about the world title as well. because it's an amazing achievement. Same thing. I don't have a really specific question, but just what, anything you'd like to share about the experience.
Now, the world title was probably the hardest fight I've had with Mason Shaw, because he's a good friend of mine. He's an absolute diamond of a guy. And he is an absolute talented boxer. People don't realise how good Mason is. I sparred Mason numbers of times. I've been to his gym, he's come down to ours, and every time we are absolutely shocked how good he is at boxing, because he is a fantastic boxer. And it was so hard to get up for that fight. I mean, when you class someone as a friend and you've got to fight them, it is quite hard anyway. So I had to switch everything off in that fight. I literally switch everything off. Jason was talking to me through the walkout. And it sounds stupid, because the only voice I could hear in that fight was Jason's. That was it. And when I won it, I couldn't believe it. I couldn't believe I was a world champion. It's something I thought I'd never be at the side of my name.
Yeah, absolutely. You proved the doubt was wrong, proved the support was right and everything. So Mason Shaw, so was that your toughest fight then? You were saying that he was pretty much...
My toughest fight was a guy named Ricky Nelder.
Oh, yeah.
I defended my British title. Now, that guy got a head like a wall. I mean, I dropped him with the right hand, and I thought, there's no way he's getting back up from that. He got up and shook his head and said, come on in. I was like, Jesus Christ. And after the fight, mate, if you look at his face after, he looked like the elephant man. And he did not take a step backwards, mate. He is the toughest guy I've ever fought.
Yeah.
Ever.
Amazing. Yeah. I mean, I had to ask, because obviously you've been in there with so many of the best names. I mean, we've mentioned a lot of them, but obviously you got like a few other guys. You've got like Anthony Holmes and Simon.
Anthony Holmes, yeah. I won again. Anthony Holmes fight, even the Mason Shaw fight, and Dan McGrath fight. I won all there. My head won in the right place. I think I'm the only guy to win a round against Anthony Holmes, because I absolutely boxed his head off in the first round. He messaged me and said, he was, I couldn't believe how good you were. I didn't think you'd be that good, all this caper. And I just lost total concentration in there, Liam. Total concentration. I caught my gum shield. That's all I remember, is catching my gum shield, and that was the end.
Yeah.
So I'll never catch my gum shield again.
That's a neat trick, though, isn't it? That's like a party trick, like a party trick.
With Anthony Holmes, I found with Anthony, if you keep on throwing a jab at him when he tries to do his move, because he's a fantastic mover, Anthony is. He switches, brilliant. It put him off a bit, and his feints, if you don't fall for his feints. But after the first round, I just lost concentration. I think because you box so well the first round and you're a world champion anyway, I think you get overconfident. I think that's what's happened to me now. I think it's brought me back down a peg, losing the 2 fights, and the fire inside me have been relit. And I'm not saying no one's going to beat me, but it'll have to be someone good to beat me.
Yeah, absolutely. Obviously, you bounced back from those fights, Dan McGrath and Holmes and those guys. Got the fire back in your belly. Talk to us a little bit about, I gotta make sure I get his name right now, but I think it's Simon Sinkonovich. I think I'm saying it right.
I can't even tell you, mate, right? That's all I call him, is Simon.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, I think I'm close.
Greg Bronson.
Yeah, he does. He does look a bit like it, doesn't he?
Again, mate, I don't know what PKP does to me, because again, he was such a nice guy, and he actually works with kids with autism. And again, I just had to switch everything off to get up for the fight, because he, honest to God, he is one of the nicest guys, genuine, nicest gentleman you'll ever meet. He looks like a right tough bastard. He is a tough bastard. But to meet him, he's a gentleman. An absolute gentleman he is. And I thought, to be honest, I thought that was going to be a 5-round war. But I kind of surprised myself, to be honest, at that fight.
Yeah, absolutely, an amazing win. Yeah, shout out to him as well. I've heard that he's a lovely guy. He's one of the few guys that I haven't properly met in BKB. I've met most of them, but yeah, big shout out to him. I've heard.
But next time you get a chance to meet him, because he wouldn't even believe he's a fighter. The way he speaks, the way he presents himself, he looks like a fighter. Don't get me wrong, he is, but he's a gentleman.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Well, it's good to give a shout out to your opponents. In a minute, we'll get to your future plans as well. But before we do, talking a little bit about your training and talking a little bit about this, but with this, I'd like to look at it from both sides of obviously physically training, but also the mental side as well, because you said that like you have some self-doubt and you have that sort, but you obviously overcome that to get big wins.
I still have self-doubt. I'll never be a confident person, and I've come to terms with that. I mean, sometimes perhaps being overconfident is a bad thing, if you understand what I mean.
Yeah.
But I've never had any self-confidence, and still this day when people says to me, you're doing really well at this, or I'm like, yeah, but in my head I'm like, I could be better. It's just always that. But yeah, it's just one of those things. It's just one of those things I've always had since a kid, unfortunately.
Yeah. So how do you manage it with like obviously basically the fame that you get now with like being in newspapers and like the fights getting hundreds of thousands of views or probably more, I don't know, they get crazy numbers, all the recognition you're getting. I mean, how do you respond with people, coming up to you and complimenting you and messaging?
Um,
Do you know what I
I
mean?
like on my Facebook now, I got about 400 messages I haven't replied to. I got to go through them, and I wrote a post saying thank you to everyone because sometimes it's easier, but I still get shocked at the support I have. I still get, like, after a fight, even when I lose a fight, I'm in awe of the support I have because I'm like, how do these guys even know me? I have people from like Canada and Australia message me. I've had people from America. I've even had someone from Japan message me. I had to translate the writing, and it's like it's absolutely bonkers, mate. This still shocks me now. Yeah, it is. It's still just talking about it now. It's mad. It's just I never thought it happened to me.
Yeah, it's amazing though. I mean, it's well deserved, I would say, but yeah, it must be an
It
amazing.
is, I'm just a lad from Townhill, from a council estate in Swansea, and it just goes to prove if I can do it, anyone can do it. And
Absolutely.
that's with mental health. That's with anything. If I can do it, anyone can do it. I can promise you that.
Yeah, absolutely. I love the message. I mean, that's actually the biggest reason why I do these interviews in the first place, is just to show people, what's possible, take the lessons from people who've done great
Yeah.
things like yourself, and just, you can apply it to any area of life. So, amazing. So last couple of things then, your training, for people who don't know, uh, what's your training like day to day? Do you train bare knuckle or with gloves on, or just, I don't know,
I
just little things for with
Since
and
I
not?
started bare knuckle, I never trained bare knuckle.
Yeah,
I mean, you get your hands hurt enough while you're in there. So what's the point in hurting them when you're training? I always wear gloves training. I know some of the headers do bare knuckle, like you've got Ricardo Franco, Scott Mahue. They all train with MMA. They spar with MMA gloves. They bonkers. They crazy. But again, they gentlemen. They lovely guys and got great fighters as well. But no, it's not for me. I don't see the point in hurting your hands when you're going to hurt them in a fight anyway. So you need them as healthy as you can. And if you can see my hands, they're quite big and come some knack at the minute. So I don't want to damage them anymore. But yeah, my boxing is just normal boxing with boxer tricks with Jason Williams. And my strength and condition, I was a Dean Delta in Muscle Finesse Swansea, which the both of them, well, it's probably the best team I've ever had, to be honest with you. My physique, my mental, my mental health, everything is working with each other at the minute, which is fantastic.
yeah,
And what people don't get about training, really, is if you suffer with mental health, you need good people around you. And when you train, you don't realise how many good people you meet. And I was lucky because I argued with Jason and I nearly lost Jason. And it's only then you realise, hang on a minute, he was more like my best friend than a trainer and a coach. He was one of my best friends. And then sometimes it's better just to bite the bullet and know you're in the wrong and say sorry. It took me a long time to do it, man, because I'm a stubborn bastard. But I done it, and it's probably the best thing I ever done.
yeah. Yeah, it's a powerful life lesson that is, and through this talk, there's actually been quite a few things that you've mentioned that are really good life lessons for people. Never mind about sports, but just for life, just for being happy, healthy.
Yeah.
I love that. So last couple of things then, before we wrap this up, you mentioned about your hands and hurting your hands and all this. Does bare knuckle boxing hurt more than say like MMA or boxing or something, or is it the same or
And I
different?
tell you a secret now, right? I've never broke my hand bare knuckle boxing,
Okay.
but I have had to have an X-ray on my left hand this time. And what they said is I've got fractures on my hand that I didn't go and get seen to from previous fights. And what's happened is calcium build up around it.
Mm.
So I'm actually breaking the calcium rather than the bone. But
Wow.
like I work on my hands every day, so I'm quite lucky. So I dig in every day. I'm putting wires up every day. I'm putting poles in the ground. So my job helps a lot as well because I'm always outside. They quite conditioned the hands, let's just put it that way. I don't need to pee on them, Liam. I don't need to pee on them.
Oh, that's fair. That's fair enough. Yeah. Well, I have heard of crazy things of people dipping them in like petrol or something, and
Petrol,
also, you
yeah.
know, yeah,
I've never done it, but
no,
I have heard. But the one I always hear is people peeing on their hands. So I don't know what it does. I think it just makes your hands smell, if I'm honest. So if you're going in the bare knuckle boxing, don't be pissing on your hands before fighting me because I won't fight you.
yeah. Yeah, I don't blame you there. I don't. Yeah, I don't. Oh, that's wild. I've heard that, man. But yes,
Yeah,
bonkers, absolutely bonkers. So pretty much the last thing then, because we've obviously talked about the fans and everything, is pretty much your future plans. I mean, pretty much you mentioned about the fire burning inside you again and all
yeah.
that type of thing. Where do you want to go from here, basically?
Well, I think everyone knows what I want. I want a rematch of Dan McGrath, but I don't think he's going to be ready till the summer because obviously he had a bad accident in the ring. So I'm hoping I get the French guy in March. I'm going to be fighting in March, and hopefully it's going to be the French guy. That's what I'm hoping for. So he's a world title holder in a minute. He's keeping my title warm for me until he meets me. And yeah, that's the plan, mate. But the rematch with Dan McGrath is the main one. I couldn't really care about the belt. That kind of hurt me the way it ended, to be honest. So that's one that's deep. That's buried deep inside me, minute to get it out and done.
Absolutely. Well, both of those would be cracking fights. Obviously, Dan McGrath again, and yeah, the Frenchman. I mean, I've seen him with like some of the King of the Streets and some of the hooligan
Yeah,
stuff before he was into BKB, and you know he's got that fire in his belly. So the two of you, that'd be a cracking fight.
yeah,
So the last question is obviously throughout this talk, we've mentioned advice for people with, you know, people who've got kids with autism, people with mental health, people, all types of stuff. So if you wanted to give advice to somebody who wanted to succeed in like a big goal in their life, whether it's in sports or whether it's in something else, like obviously you've become world champion without even
yeah.
thinking, you know, you thought you'd have one fight and it ended up there. What would you say if somebody comes up to you and they say, look, I've got like a big dream or a big goal I want to achieve? I know this is kind of a weird one, but it's just
No, it's not a weird one, mate, and you've got an answer for it. Don't
okay.
concentrate on the big goal first. Concentrate on the small goals that leads up to the big goal.
Mm,
Just concentrate on every goal day by day. If that goal don't make it that day, try it the next day. If it don't make it that day, just don't give up. I mean, don't let anyone tell you that you're wrong. Don't let anyone tell you that you can't do it. If you think you can do it, just do it.
mm.
But always aim for the small goals before the big goal.
I love that. Yeah, absolutely love that. Yeah, process, enjoy the process. You know,
Just
yeah,
enjoy it.
yeah,
Just enjoy it. And if you don't enjoy it, move on to something else because it's all about enjoyment.
yeah. All about enjoying each step. Yeah, absolutely. I love that. Absolutely brilliant answer. And like I said before, applies to any life area. So
Any life area, mate. I mean, even if you're just got a goal, you go to bed in the morning because you're depressed. You know what I mean? It's just work towards it.
mm,
Get the small goals done first until and then one day that goal will come and you'll be like, oh my god, I've done it. It's done. And
yeah,
it's all about the small ones leading up to it.
it is. Yeah, that absolutely. I mean, and then you look back and you think, wow, I've come a long way. But you're
Yeah,
just focusing on step by step. I love it. Well, you know, champ, we've actually talked about some amazing stuff today. I mean,
yeah.
I mean, honestly, we've talked about a lot. Anything else you'd like to say to your fans, your supporters, your people in your community, whoever, before we wrap?
From the bottom of my heart, mate, I just can't thank them enough for the awareness of mental health and autism they raised with me, right? Even down to Rosehill Football Club, which is a local football team that asked me to even just present trophies. I mean, they got a lot of people to ask, and they ask me all the time. And it's just, honest to God, the fans and the supporters, they don't realise how much it does for you. Half the time, I think of them when I'm training. thinking about letting them down, and that's what edges me on. Or thinking about letting the kids down. I got the autism, and I'm fighting for, and that's what edges me on. And without them, it won't be possible.
Yeah. Well, absolutely. It's great to give them a shout out as well. And yeah, I mean, I think that's everything. All I can say once again is obviously it's a great pleasure to have had you on the show. Thank you for taking your time out of your evening.
It's no problem, Jim. Thank you for
And,
taking your time, mate.
and we've most importantly, as well as talking about fighting, we've spread a message of hope to a lot of people. So
as I said in the show, when it reaches one person and helps one person, our job's done.
Absolutely, yeah, spot on, spot on. Well, thank you again for your time.
No problem, mate.
Rest of your evening. Have a great Christmas as well and a great New Year.
Have an amazing Christmas, mate, and stay in touch, right?
Thank you very much for watching. Please subscribe to the Simply Inspired YouTube channel, and there'll be more videos coming soon.